in Vancouver. I'm your host, Zara Durrani. The show is produced with the support of TELUS STORYHIVE. Today, I'm here on the red carpet for the 44th Annual Vancouver International Film Festival. I'm so excited and honored to be here to speak to program curators, filmmakers, and talent. Vancouver International Film Festival has been a cornerstone of Vancouver's cultural landscape, a meeting place where filmmakers, artists, and audiences from around the world come together to celebrate the power of cinema. This year's festival showcases bold new voices, groundbreaking documentaries, and unforgettable stories that reflect the diversity of our city and the global community. Over the next few days, we'll be bringing you behind the scenes, onto the red carpets, and into conversations with visionaries shaping this year's program. From emerging filmmakers to celebrated directors, VIFF continues to be a space where art sparks dialogue and storytelling. Let's go see who's here today. Hi friends, we're so excited to be here in downtown Vancouver to celebrate another fabulous year of Vancouver International Film Festival, and joining me today is the talented Sonia Baksa. Thank you so much for taking the time to come early and join us today and tell us a bit about what audiences can expect this year as your role is of the program lead with VIFF.
Hi Zara, thank you very much for having me. We're very excited to kick things off today. I think it's going to be a very exciting festival. We have 170 feature films and almost 100 shorts across the board, and we have expanded our venues this year, so it's poised to be a very kind of like a large turnout, and it's kind of like been gradually growing post-pandemic, so we're very excited to kick things off today. And I think my role this year has also kind of expanded. I've been with the organization for a few years now in various programming capacities, but I'm also happy to be expanding my portfolio this year. I've been in charge of the Vanguard section for many years, but I'm also now working with Curtis, our director of programming, on portfolio of films from France, Southern Europe, Southern Eastern Europe, and also I had some selections from Latin America, so it's really exciting.
For someone out there who may not be familiar or maybe perhaps wanting to get into programming, can you share with us where the inspiration came from and what truly requires when it comes to work behind the scenes? Because I'm assuming you're sitting down and watching a lot of films.
Yes. So that's a great question. I mean, on a very basic level, it's just love of film, the impulse to share films with others. You know, ever since I was little, I would always see something that I would get very excited about, and I just had this impulse to share it with my friends. I would always be making mental lists, like which friend would like certain film, and so that kind of grew over the years. I went in, you know, different career paths, but I always kind of like came back to film, and then I kind of officially followed this path when I went to study film curation at the University of Edinburgh, which is kind of what really set this path for me. And in terms of what the job entails, it really is like it takes stamina to watch a lot of films over the season.
And I'm sure a lot of love and passion for film.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's quite different from the role of a film critic, even though, you know, the two paths overlap. But I think, you know, it's kind of just like finding films that you just feel the audience needs to see. And yeah, the submission cycle is long. We you know, watch films over many months, everything that's submitted to us, and then we also scout films at other festivals. And yeah, we kind of then like close in on our selections, and this is the program that we present here. Yeah.
Well, we're very excited, and from what I've been told, that we're expecting double the amount of numbers this year because the excitement for Vancouver International Film Festival continues to grow. And I've been a supporter, I've been a fan from the get-go. What I would love to hear, and I'm sure so with the audiences, is are there any particular themes that they can expect this year? Any particular messages that between you and Curtis that you're hoping to convey this year?
I think it's interesting. I mean, there are certain themes that always repeat themselves that are kind of like very universal, you know, themes of belonging, displacement is big this year. There's, you know, there's this just like general sense of unease with the state of, you know, the world. And so this is definitely kind of threaded through many films. And I think one theme that I thought about this yesterday is memory and the way we kind of process them, especially like family memories. There are some really strong films that deal with that. And this kind of like can take any shape and form, but that's one. And then also, of course, sense of community, what that means, whether it's family or chosen family. We see many beautiful films. And identity. This is like a universal theme that always repeats.
So this is the 44th annual Vancouver International Film Festival. You've been involved for the last couple of years. Tell us a bit about your role. We've spoken a bit about it, how it has evolved, and where do you see it going and helping shape the film community in BC? Because we're, of course, a big topic. Curtis is very passionate about promoting Canadian cinema, and then you're bringing in the films from Europe and around the world. So tell us about that.
So, you know, it was cinema, as you said for yourself, is kind of like the entry point, the cultural entry point. It was the same for me. And I've arrived in Canada quite recently, and I got involved, you know, I came to Vancouver, I got involved with local film communities, one of them being VIFF. I really started as a pre-screener on the team many moons ago now, it seems, but gradually, you know, went through all the kind of like links, you know, in the chain, I guess, from, you know, I was a pre-screener, then I was a consultant and associate programmer. My first like solo portfolio was the Vanguard section, and which has now expanded. And I think because of my experience of being a pre-screener, I kind of, my role is heavily involved with managing our screening committees, because we want to be mindful of their time and the contribution they make to our festival. I really want to shout out our screening committee. They are the ones that come on board early in the year when submissions open and watch everything that comes through and suggest. So there's like this long process of, you know, recommending films, and then we watch it, and then we also discover films through sales agents and distributors. They send things to us. So many discussions are had until we come to this point. So I really enjoy this process of working with different people from all kinds of communities, all different backgrounds. It really enriches our selection at the end of the day. And I think, you know, film is for everyone. It's the most accessible art form, I find. And it's just wonderful to be able to share it. I love this job. I wouldn't be doing anything else, honestly. And so it's just like really a pleasure to come to this point where we can unveil. And it's always very rewarding for a screening committee when they can see films that they watched and recommended. They
and then
find
also maybe when you're in the audience and you get to see the reaction or perhaps some moments that are landing that, you know, whether someone is gasping or laughing or having an emotional moment, and you're like, okay, I had that too. And it's so great to see that all the audiences, their hearts are getting touched. Last question before we let you go, because I know this is your big night. Any advice for aspiring filmmakers or just filmmakers out there who may want to get their projects or submit their projects into VIFF?
I mean, just like make the film that you want to make. Don't get caught up in trends. Trends come and go in cinema. You know, make a film from your heart. Just play with it. Play with the form. Don't be afraid to experiment. You know, sometimes, you know, it takes a while to finesse it, and sometimes maybe the first film doesn't get into a film festival, but we remember. You know, we always notice when someone has like a particular voice, and we kind of like follow up. I will remember like, oh, I think I watched this filmmaker's film last year, didn't get in, but I'm curious about their follow-up. So I would just say don't give up, keep making films, and just kind of like make films from the heart, not trying to kind of fit into a mold of what festival requires, because ultimately we want to be surprised. We don't know what we're looking for until we see it.
Well, Sonia, thank you so much for your time, and I'm wishing you a very fantastic evening. It's going to be an exciting festival. I'm hoping to catch a lot of films. I've received some screeners. I get to speak to some filmmakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zara.
All right, folks, welcome back to On Location. I'm here at the VIFF Center, and joining me now is Marianne Schmidt. I'm so excited to sit here with her because she has been volunteering with the festival for over 4 decades. Marianne, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you have a volunteer shift today, but thank you for making time for us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be asked to do this.
Amazing. I love your lime green shirt.
Luckily, it's from my childhood days. It's 40 years old and it still fits, and it matches my shirt of the volunteer.
Wonderful. So we met Marianne at the Exchange, where a lot of the events were taking place during the film festival. And Marianne was walking around smiling, and I had to say hello and introduce myself. And then I was curious what got her to volunteer. And that's how I found out that she has been volunteering for 42 out of the 44 years that the festival has been around, correct?
43.
43.
Sorry, I shouldn't say that.
43 of the...
I missed that 1 year of the beginning, and I'm so sorry I missed out. I don't know where I was.
43 of the 44 years, so quite remarkable. Marianne, take us back. What got you involved in the festival? What made you want to volunteer with this?
It actually happened chance because I was in 82 a teacher, for a decade before that too. And then all of a sudden at the beginning of the 80s, teachers, more than 22,000 were out of work in BC. I had just switched schools, so then that I wasn't needed. And I thought, my gosh, I've got all this free time. And there it started, the volunteering started, because I thought the film, that sounds interesting. As I didn't have anything like that when I was young. We had no TV, we had no this, no that. And I thought, now here's my chance to be able to watch more films, which I didn't do when I was a kid.
So you must be a big movie lover.
I am. I just wish I had more time to see more movies. And I'm so lucky that sometimes I get an ushering job inside the theater where I'm able to watch the movies after everyone's been seated and taken care of. And then that's good.
Marianne, what keeps you coming back year after year to get involved with the festival?
Just the people, because I'm a real people person. Just people, just meeting the customers and the lovely clients that come in. And some of them that have come for years and years, we have a special cushion or a little cover on their chair, and I feel protective of them, so I watch it. Nobody sits in their chair until they get there, even if they come in later at the last minute. But people will say, can't we take those chairs now? Because it's 5 minutes before the show, we can sit in those colored cushions. I said, just hang on, please. These are platinum people that are really VIPs, and we need to look after them first, if you don't mind. I like that. And also, well, I think it's just because that word international just appeals to me. In the past, in my career, of course, I had the teaching, like I mentioned, and I was lucky that I was able to have some languages in my life because I taught French and Spanish, Italian, and German.
Really?
Yes, because, and that's the word international, that I can stand out there and talk to the people.
So that's
in
French,
languages.
Italian, and German you taught?
Spanish. Yeah, Spanish is my favorite. But my mother was Chinese, of Winnipeg origin, but born here, but she went to Hong Kong and did her thing. So I learned the Cantonese from her, but unfortunately I didn't keep it up. And that was German. So I kept that up a little bit, again, not so much. When we immigrated to Canada, they did not force us to speak German and Chinese after school. We wanted to just speak English. And if we'd had the money, they would have sent us to German school and Chinese school. We didn't have that kind of money. So I'm sorry I lost it. But the other languages just came easy because Dad says you learn one, and the second one is easier, third one is easier. music. And there's a little bit of Greek because my husband was Greek, and I asked him to teach me that, so I learned a bit of Greek and some Japanese. And then when I go around traveling around the world, I try and learn some languages.
So you can watch a lot of different films from many parts of the world because you understand what they're saying and what they're talking about. What do you say to folks who are volunteering for the first time at the festival?
Just be of service to the general public because you are there to serve them. Other than smiling, just make sure that they're comfortable and answer their questions to the best of your ability. And if you can't, just talk to the supervisor. They're right there. They're so good. The support team is incredible. You can ask and go to them for anything. And they do also with such kindness. And I just love that everybody is so friendly and so kind. There's never a bad word in all 43 years. Not a bad word from anybody. It's really wonderful. Some of them get discouraged, and so I just...
I'm sure you have years of experience, like 43 years of experience in so many festivals that you've attended so many years. But are there any particular moments or memories or films or conversations that stand out to you that you would like to share with us?
Can I just tell you one that happened just this week?
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to cry, but I hope I won't cry.
Well, I'm right here with you.
Okay, the three films that I saw on my first shift here. One was called Wrangler. And
one was called what?
Wrangler, about wild dogs in a school in Korea that they trained to Basra. And then a cartoon about the Sudanese war. Oh my gosh. And the last one was called Gazelle. Okay. Now that film was so touching. A Turkish fellow, and he's trying to get his family over to New York and so on and so on. And he's pays them money, $5,000 and sometimes more, just to get that boat, to get them on the boat. But their own Turkish people kept the money, and they didn't say, they said 3 weeks. Oh no, then it turns into 3 months and then 3 years, and his family's still not there. He's a music teacher. So his daughter and wife are still over there, and they have to get away from the soldiers and all. So they're in trouble too, but he's trying to get them over. But in the very end, he plays the piano and he zooms with his daughter, who is singing the song called You Are My Sunshine.
Oh.
That is my favorite song. That was my dad's favorite song. And Dad was 62 when I was born. So you can imagine, when Mother was pregnant with me, Dad would sing that song to her all the time. So he was singing that to me in summertime. It was so moving. It's the most lovely story. So that song is my favorite, and it'll always be. And so that man in the movie reminded me of my dad, and that little girl reminded of me when I got older, just singing that song.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
If you could leave a message for younger generations, filmmakers, festival goers, volunteers, what would it be?
Oh, there's every moment. Don't miss out on anything. You know, if you're tired, you know, you can do it slowly or do it. Take a rest and do it. But don't stop moving. Just keep going and do it, because life is too short. It goes so fast. And just always be nice to each other. Help each other. One hand washes the other. And I think you will do well in life. If you follow your path in life and you make a mistake, you start again. And if you fall down, you stand up and start again. And don't be afraid to speak out. And if somebody does bother you or somebody's nice to you, let other people know. Because one good word goes around 1,000,000 times. And actions speak louder than words. Don't be unpleasant to each other when you're working on your shift, for example. And just always, always, always do the best that you can. And don't stand back and say, oh, somebody else will do it. That's a lazy way out. Just show your willingness, and you'll go far, because you will get, noticed, and people will say, hey, that's good. I need her for my job, or else get a recommendation or something that's going to happen. Just help each other out and just be kind to each other.
Thank you so much, Marianne. I truly appreciate you, and I'm so glad we connected. And
so happy.
Your words were so moving. They really, really touched me. I appreciate it.
Thrilled.
I appreciate you coming here and taking the time. And you're volunteering today. You have a volunteer shift today. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time.
Thank you. I hope we go dancing one day, because that's my priority in life, is dancing.
Yes,
to music,
Marianne is a very passionate dancer. I really, really appreciate you.
Okay, my friends, welcome back to On Location. I'm your host, Zara Durrani. My goodness, I'm so excited to be here to sit down with some amazing Canadian filmmakers, talent who've flown in from around the world as well. And joining me right now is someone whose film is truly moving. It touched my heart truly deeply. And if you get an opportunity to check out the Vancouver International Film Festival, I highly urge for you to check out, make time for Treasure of the Rice Terraces by Kent Donginis.
Yes.
How are you doing? How's the festival treating you so far?
So far, so good. You know, no complaints. Really looking forward to the premiere, of course. I thought the opening film was very relatable. You know, as a director who wears shades indoors. And also, you know, just catching up with a lot of friends in the festival. And, you know, today I did a panel on documentary filmmaking with the Catalyst program. So that was also a nice moment for me to also reflect on my process. And I'm looking forward to watching more films. I skipped certain films to TIFF so I can watch it here in VIFF.
I love that. I'd like to backtrack a little bit and talk about your history here in Canada and then becoming a filmmaker.
It was quite the journey. You know, I moved to Canada in 2015 to join my dad and his family in Ottawa. And that's when I had a taste of what the Canadian dream is supposed to be. You know, I didn't expect that fresh out of university in the Philippines. I even missed my own graduation. When I moved to Ottawa, I realized that none of my education mattered. Here in Canada, I had to go back to school. I had to do entry-level jobs. You know, as I mentioned, the red carpet, my very first job, I was a janitor cleaning a mall from 11 p.m. to 7 in the morning.
Wow.
You know, and then from there, I tried call center. I did door-to-door sales, and I found comfort in making fresh juices for an independent grocer in Ottawa. And yeah, and one of my most pivotal moments there was when my coworker in that mall said to me, "Kent, if you have a dream, you need to quit tomorrow. Because if you don't quit tomorrow, you're gonna start getting used to making money, even though the money is good here, and you have a dream, you need to let go of this job or else you're going to become like me." And I took that to heart. I quit the next day, applied to film schools.
And how old were you then, and how long ago is this?
This was back in 2015. I was 20 years old. And then, yeah, I applied to film schools, Toronto Film School, UCLA, and VFS, Vancouver Film School. And I asked God for a sign. I was like, "God, you know, just lead me where you want me to be." And VFS offered me a partial scholarship, and I was like, there it is. I'm going to Vancouver, you know. So I stayed in Ottawa for about
Hollywood North, baby.
Yeah.
Hollywood North.
stayed in Ottawa for about 10 months there, and then moved to Vancouver, and I never left. You know, like it's a very humbling experience for me. I came out of the Philippines with so much pride because of, you know, the school, the quality of education I received, the training, you know, our family. Like we have it a little bit more comfortable in the Philippines, and you know, hitting the reset button, moving to Ottawa was a whole different ordeal. And you know, I'm just grateful that I was able to pursue something I've always wanted to do. You know, shout out to my grandma who, you know, put a camera on my hand in 4th grade and forced me to learn photojournalism, you know, only to find myself telling stories and moving pictures.
I'm so grateful that now, like when people like you show up on the red carpet, and I'm sure there's a kid out there who's watching and he's like, "Hey, I can be like Kent. I want to be a filmmaker. I want to pick up a camera, or I have something to say."
Yeah.
And to know that there's going to be an audience who is interested in your story. Now that is a very healing moment, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think for me as a filmmaker, I really tried to find my voice, especially when I started directing in 2019. And I wasn't necessarily sure how far I'd go with it. All I knew was I'm going to be telling Filipino stories as human, as raw, and as authentic as possible. The moment I've found my purpose in film, which is to bridge the gap between Philippines and Canada through the stories I tell, it gave me that boost of confidence. It gave me, a promise of maybe a bright future, and it made every decision count. From the moment we've done, a documentary with caregivers and nannies to then making a movie with their kids, then jumping into fiction to close a chapter of my life as a janitor. Like, it allowed me to, all these experiences, I'm glad it happened. Not only because it was a humbling experience, but it allowed me to have, so much pool of emotions to pull from as an artist. And sometimes people think I just make sad Filipino stories, but there's more to the sadness behind these stories. There's a power of hope, resilience, family connection, making a commentary on immigration and how all these things come together and change one's identity, which all comes down to, just really finding a comfort in the stories you tell and be the champion of that and push it forward as much as you can.
So I want to talk about Treasure of the Rice Terraces and how did that come to be and what inspired you to share this story?
As it's going to be mentioned in the film, this all started in a dream.
Yes.
I had a 2-week recurring dream of a silhouette of an old woman up in the mountains of the Philippines. And I knew it was in the Philippines because there's a tourist destination that was considered as one of the 7 wonders of the world back in the day, called the Banawe Rice Terraces, which is close to Apawang-Od's village. And the more I dove into it and took the project to further development and realizing that she's alive and existing, really gave me that drive to pursue, to tell her story. When we came in the development process, we thought this was going to be a documentary that not only spotlights but profiles this community, Apawang-Od and her apprentices, but it changed massively. It turned out to be a movie about my personal journey in reclaiming my Filipino identity and through traditional Filipino tattoos. It's as a country that's Philippines, a Western patronizing country, and also clinging on to my experiences in the Philippines of seeing people who have fair skin or half of something and half Filipino, they get some kind of special treatment. And I just refuse to, to surrender to that system and, really use this film to not only spotlight Apo's story, but also show to people, especially Filipinos outside of the Philippines, how rich our country is in terms of cultures and traditions. And there's, and Apawang-Od's story is just one of many under-discovered stories out there.
So tell me about going to your ancestral land. And I know this wasn't just like something that happened in 1 year. This happened over time.
Yes, this was 5 years in the making, and one of the things I really learned in the process is how much my Filipino identity has slowly faded away the longer I was staying in Canada. And when we started doing the project and actually shooting, I thought I was going to have a better understanding of what my identity is after the film, only to realize that the moment we started shooting, my quest for identity clarity, has begun. Right there and then, I learned to love the Philippines more. I learned to love myself more. I learned to love our cultures and our traditions even more. And, and it gave me that boost that I needed, that I can be the champion of my country here in Canada, when it comes to telling authentic Filipino stories. You know, because I'm not saying that there's not a lot of us. There's a lot of Filipino Canadians who tell Filipino stories, but I think the beauty of film and art itself is, you know, it's always subjective to whoever's running it. And I feel and I believe that the way I handle and attack film while telling Filipino stories is still different from other artists and other Filipino Canadians, because I pull from my own experiences. You know, I'm not trying to make it about myself, but I feel like in everything that I do, there's so much that people can pull from. You know.
So tell me about going to your ancestral land. And I know this wasn't just like something that happened in 1 year. This happened over time.
Yes, this was 5 years in the making. You know, and one of the things I really learned in the process is how much my Filipino identity has slowly faded away the longer I was staying in Canada. And when we started doing the project and actually shooting, I thought I was gonna have a better understanding of what my identity is after the film, only to realize that the moment we started shooting, my quest for identity clarity, you know, has begun. Right there and then. I learned to love the Philippines more. I learned to love myself more. I learned to love our cultures and our traditions even more. And, you know, and it gave me that boost that I needed, that, you know, that I can be the champion of my country here in Canada when it comes to telling authentic Filipino stories. You know, because I'm not saying that there's not a lot of us. There's a lot of Filipino Canadians who tell Filipino stories, but I think the beauty of film and art itself is, you know, it's always subjective to whoever's running it. And I feel and I believe that the way I handle and attack film while telling Filipino stories is still different from other artists and other Filipino Canadians, because I pull from my own experiences. You know, I'm not trying to make it about myself, but I feel like in everything that I do, there's so much that people can pull from. You know.
What are your hopes, the conversations audiences are going to have, whether they're Filipino or Caucasian, when they watch this film?
Yeah, this film is multi-layered. You know, it's a history lesson. It's also just, you know, so fascinating and breathtaking, the landscapes that we've captured. It's a quest for identity. There's also, you know, of course, the tattoos and the practice that Buscalan is doing. And I've really pondered what I want people to get out of the film, and I'll stick to what I've said in the red carpet, which is to really ponder the phrase, going back to where you came from. You know, what does that mean to you when you hear or ask yourself that question? Like, will I be able to feel complete if I go back to where I come from? So meditate on that. Also, you know, just like the tattoos. Tattoos have so much negative connotations, not only in the Philippines, but across the world. It's experienced so much stigma, but also it's a beautiful piece of art. It's body art, you know, and in Buscalan, it's a way of showing one's bravery and courage, while on the other hand, on the female side, like, it shows how beautiful you are, and it also speaks of your stature in the village and all that. So I really want people to meditate on the phrase, going back to where you came from. Also, how important are tattoos for you now? You know, I think there was quite a time when people just started getting tattoos because it feels cool. You know, it adds some kind of flavor on their bodies. But what if you start getting tattoos not because it's cool, but because it means so much to you?
The spirituality behind it, and that's what I was getting. It's more rooted in culture.
Yeah.
And it's a spiritual practice. And were there, I know you have to run, was there a moment during your filmmaking process And, you know, whether you're there interviewing or you're flying in or losing your luggage or whatever, any moments or conversations that you had that left a profound mark on you?
Yeah, definitely a lot in terms of conversations, but instead of giving you a conversation, I'll give you a moment. Because this was such a beautiful shared moment I've had with the team when we came back there. After we finished the movie, because when we were filming, we promised the village that when the movie's done, you'll be the first community to see it. You know, this is a film made by the community for the community, and they definitely, you know, like have the right to see it first. And when we screened it in Buscalan the first time, there was just so much gratitude from the community who embraced us with open arms, not just me and my producer, but my entire team. There were 12 of us up in the mountains, and you know, it's sure they're used to having visitors and vloggers filming and, you know, and making their content in Buscalan, but not so much in the film stuff, you know, where you bring big cameras, big lights, you know, and screening it in front of the community, and, you know, meeting more people from the community that we haven't met, and hearing them say thanks for not only telling a story of Apo and Grace and Elyang, but telling the story of the village. It was the most beautiful, poignant, magical moment. It almost validated our existence as an independent production. You know, I think gone are the days that it's the studios running the film industry. I think we're in such an important time where independent films are able to cover stories that won't normally, you know, be spotlighted in mainstream media, and it makes our future more promising, and it's so encouraging and inspiring to, you know, to just know that we made this specific movie for the community, and the community loved and, you know, loves it and connects with it, and I'm just looking forward to making more.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, it sounds like many more are ahead of you.
Yes.
I'm very excited to watch, and hopefully there is like one seat remaining for me, because I can only imagine the congratulations.
Thank you so much, Zara.
And my pleasure. It is an honor to sit here with you and just to, you know, you hear your story, your heart, and that's obviously shows in the film, beautifully shot, like really inspires me to go visit Philippines. And thank you again. And thank you all for watching, for tuning in. I'm your host, Zara Durrani. The show is brought to you with the support of TELUS STORYHIVE, and our coverage of the 44th Vancouver International Film Festival continues, where we will be taking you backstage, behind the scenes, to sit down with Canadian filmmakers as well as filmmakers from around the world. Stay tuned. Well, folks, what an extraordinary evening here tonight on the red carpet for the 44th Annual Vancouver International Film Festival. Tonight, we witnessed how film transcends borders, inspires empathy, and brings communities together. From powerful documentaries to cinematic debuts, VIFF has once again proven itself to be a platform for voices that challenge, inspire, and move us. A heartfelt thank you to the festival organizers, the artists, and to TELUS STORYHIVE for supporting local storytellers and amplifying diverse perspectives. Until next time, I'm your host, Zara Durrani, and this has been On Location Vancouver, here at the 44th Annual Vancouver International Film Festival. Thank you all for tuning in and watching On Location Vancouver. If you'd like to share your story with us and be a guest on the show, please scan the QR code and someone from our team will get in touch with you. We'll see you soon.